Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Artificial DM. So today, I'm going to be telling you guys one of my experiences of running a game. I did a community poll a couple weeks ago, and you guys wanted to hear some of my stories. I don't have a ton of stories racked up, especially being as most of the time I run the games, so I really feel it's the players who have stories to tell as opposed to me. However, I can tell you guys about the Christmas one-shot that I did last year. So I am blessed that I have a lot of friends in my community who want to play D&D. Both friends that had been trying to get me into the hobby for years, friends that wanted to learn how to play the game, and friends I made along the way in pursuing the game. It was around October or November of last year that I decided I was going to go ahead and run one-shot every month, and I got a bunch of people interested. Now, the thing about one-shots for me, I enjoy the fact that you can take a one-shot, run it for a group, and the things that the players do in the one-shot affect the rest of the outside world. So some of my normal players, I encourage them to go ahead and make a new character for one-shots. That way they can go ahead and learn new mechanics, flesh out an idea they've had, or just get that feel of being able to play a new character without needing to, commit accidental kill yourself in Minecraft. So initially I had told people that I had a one-shot that I was working on, and I told them that it would be partially inspired by a Christmas movie. At the time, I was using the one-shots to help me construct the world that I was making for my homebrew games. And I know how cliche it is to take inspiration from real-world things and put it into your D&D game, but it was my second or third one-shot. Anyway, I had constructed a little town that, for right now, we'll either call it Oakhurst or Oakhell. For right now, we'll call it Oakhell, because I keep saying Oakhell when I meant to say Oakhelm, but I'm an idiot. And I told the players to go ahead and construct level 1 characters. I then gave them a bit of backstory. Instead of it being what's called Christmas, because it's D&D, it's a completely different universe. You wouldn't want to celebrate traditions and holidays, or at least all of the same traditions and holidays, that we here on Earth experience. So instead, I put a little bit of a twist on it. I told my players that during the winter solstice, there is a brilliant light show in the sky, sort of like the Northern Lights. And the legend amongst the people of Thrasis goes that there is a demigod, and he has a magical sleigh, and upon the winter solstice, he flies through the sky, painting the night sky with the brilliant lights that he's able to produce. There's also a bit of tradition tied into it, and people will gather together and hold celebrations, and children will often get a toy, inspired by things that we actually experience, but different. The description of the demigod changes between the regions, but overall, there are 3 things that are consistent. 1. He's either a half-elf or an elf. 2. Light either emanates from him, or light comes from his clothing. And lastly, in addition to painting the night sky with light, a tradition carried out by the people is to put out a paper lantern on the winter solstice. It's said as he flies overhead, he will light the paper lantern, and if there is a child there, then he will leave a present for them. Another part of the tradition is that people from the most popular religion in the world, the one that actually prays to the father of the demigod, and clergy members will travel town to town, lighting these massive paper lanterns in churches. And those individuals will always be a half-elf or an elf, and they will actually dress as the demigod. Both the demigod and the clergy members that travel town to town are called the Lightbringer. Technically, the demigod had an actual name, but I can't seem to find my notes about it. Okay, lore out of the way. So the players were all in this small town, when there was a destructive noise that came from the woods about a couple miles away. The local mayor decided to hire anybody who was willing to go investigate the noise and figure out what was wrong. Meanwhile, I had the players go ahead and introduce themselves. There was a warforged, a druid halfling, a human paladin, and I believe a gnome wizard. They had some social interaction as they went through the woods, their feet crunching in the snow. Eventually, there was a small clearing, and they could see radiant clothing coming from the clearing. And as they investigated through the trees, there was a furbolg with a sleigh, and it was piled high with stuff. Yeah, that's right, I basically copied the Grinch. As the players entered the clearing, the furbolg attempted to intimidate them. However, they were able to make some social rolls, and one of them wanted to go ahead and attempt to help the furbolg. The players were attempting to help the Firbolg, whose sleigh had happened to stop working, and I really can't remember what happened next, but combat broke out. The Firbolg was casting some spells, being able to cast Entangle, Ensnare, the one where roots come up from the ground and bind anybody to it if they fail a dexterity check. The players were swarming him. He decided to hop into his sleigh and give it a whirl. What was great about this is the Artificer was actually in the sleigh at the time. He was the one who was trying to help the Firbolg. As the machine began to pick up speed, the druid hopped into the back of the sleigh and began to fight with the Firbolg. In so doing, the Warforged ended up getting knocked off his feet and slammed into the front of the sleigh. Being as the sleigh was barely off the ground still, and traveling only probably about 10 miles an hour or so, the entire sleigh dipped down and slammed into the ground. Being as a Warforged is probably about 200 pounds, and this sleigh is kind of rickety. I ended up doing a constitution save to see how well the sleigh held together. Surprisingly, the entire sleigh fell apart. The Firbolg was brought to tears, expounding about his plans, how he felt neglected, betrayed. He had never taken part in the Festival of Lights and wanted to do so, but did so in a twisted way. He had stolen a bunch of goods and was planning on going to a different town to surprise them with everything that he stole. He was also upset because the whole reason that he crashed was because he ended up hitting a large bird, one that actually stole his dog. Zam. A couple of the players ended up going and finding the tree that the bird was in, and were able to defeat it and bring the dog back to the Firbolg. By that time, another search party had come from the town, and they essentially saved the Festival of Lights. It would have been fun had we done more with it, but we only had a couple of hours to play, and it was a fun little adventure that wasn't entirely based around combat. At the end of the one-shot, the Lightbringer actually approached all the party members, and gave each of them a gift, for helping save the town's Festival of Lights. I then told the players that each character gained a special item, and told them that in the future, if they wanted to play with those same characters in a one-shot, they are more than welcome to, and those items they acquired are in their possession. Anyway, that's my tale about one of my one-shots. It's not very eventful, and overall, it was a great time. Like I said at the beginning, my players are probably going to have better stories to tell, and it probably would have helped had I wrote all this down. If you guys are interested, I might make more tales about my one-shots and adventures. That's going to do it for today, and until next time, happy holidays.